Brand nerds. It's summer 2026, Larry.
Love it.
All right, y'all. Summertime. Summertime. Shout, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
I'm
We
glad you
know,
said Jazzy Jeff first because he doesn't get enough run, I think, sometimes. You know what I mean?
I agree. And that was actually the name of the group.
Right.
Yeah, it was Jazzy Jeff who was the
First.
DJ, who
Yeah.
was the primary. But brand nerds, we know you all are out and about during the summer. Hopefully, you're getting some vacation time, rest and relaxation. And while you're doing that, what Larry and I and the Brands Beats and Bites family thought we would do is to share some of the best that we've ever done at Brands, Beats, and Bites some episodes. So we're going to be remixing some things for the summer that we're going to point you to by resurfacing the best of Brands, Beats, and Bites anytime, summertime.
That's right, D. Brand nerds. What DC and I are really talking about is if you missed this episode the first time, you need to catch it this time. These are all must see or listen, whichever you prefer. Brand nerds, let me break it down why this particular episode cannot be missed. All brand nerds, and especially those with an entrepreneurial bent, you will simply love this and, dare I say, be pulled in immediately. This is super special for me since Bernard Bell and I were classmates at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Keenan Flagler School, and every conversation I have ever had with Bernard is fun and interesting. Now throw DC into the mix, and this one is off the hook. Bernard has achieved a whole lot in the business world and is now running the UNC Shuford program in entrepreneurship, where he is known as the confidence professor. Trust me, start listening and you will not be able to stop. And oh, by the way, as the title of this episode says, you will win the room. Enjoy.
Brand nerds. Oh, you know how excited we get when we have a new episode of Brands, Beats, and Bites. A lot of times, brand nerds, you all will hear someone that we call family on the podcast. And they might be family to both Larry and I, or they might be family to me, which makes them family to Larry. And sometimes they're family to Larry, which makes them family to me. We're in the latter category today, brand nerds. This is family to Larry. He'll go into that in a minute. But I got three things I want to drop on y'all, brand nerds, about this brother. The first is in brand management, throughout my career, and I know this is the same for Larry, when I have been at my best in a leadership position with the team, my team and I have a simpatico relationship with the sales team. This is there has not been a time where there has been a failure in a brand and a business where marketing and sales were simpatico. There are voluminous examples of failures when marketing and sales are at odds. Healthy tension, good. Hate each other, bad. This next guest understands exactly what it is on the sales side and how a successful organization runs when marketing and sales are working symbiotically. Number two, we just had a gathering at Georgia Tech's business school. Larry, I think it's Schiller.
Yes, it is.
Schiller Business School, great business school. And the professor that invited us over is a Coke alum. His name is Tim. Tim is a practitioner, not just a professor. This next guest has deep university experience, but also deep corporate experience. So his students are not just learning from an academician, no disrespect to academicians, love them, have been taught by many of them, would not be where I am without them. But as my daughters have taught me, someone who is only taught tenured, many years, peer-reviewed writing, that is fantastic. when you add real world corporate experience, as my daughters have taught me, it just hits different. That's the second. And thirdly, uh, I'm a member of Divine Nine. This next guest is also a Divine Nine member. Larry will talk about that, but let me just say he has a certain affection for George Clinton and the song Atomic Dog. Let me just say he has that kind of a just affection for that particular song. And when you see him, for you brand nerds that actually see the YouTube, and you see how he's all like crispy white shirt, got the suit on, it's just like laying on him, look like it's been custom made or something like that. Do not let the smooth taste fool you. All right, Larry, who we got in the building today, brother?
DC, I've been waiting for this for a long time. We have Bernard Bell in the house. Welcome, Bernard.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, DC. Man, what an opening, bro. What an opening, man.
Well, that's just the opening, Bernard. That's just the opening. So we have to tell the brand nerds who you actually are and what you are about and what you've done. So, okay, brand nerds, I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I am super excited today since we have been working on our calendars for a long time to get Bernard on the podcast, and we have finally done it. He is a great friend, as DC alluded to, and fellow Tar Heel, who is actually a double Tar Heel. More on that in a minute. Bernard is a native of Greensboro, North Carolina.
I'm sorry, Larry. Can I just interrupt here? I just want to interrupt for a second. I don't know that y'all should have fired Hubert Davis. I don't want to bring down the podcast.
You're bringing us down.
His best player was out. His best player is going to go number 5 at the lowest, maybe number 3.
Maybe.
So I just want to express that I'm not a Carolina person. I just wanted to get that out the way. Okay, go please go, Larry.
He's throwing some hate on us, Bernard, but that's okay.
I felt it. That's shade. That's shade.
It is. But we'll traverse through it. All right. So Bernard is a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, where his dad was a professor at North Carolina A&T. Bernard earns his first of 2 degrees at UNC Chapel Hill, undergrad in economics, where he serves as captain of the UNC speech team, and they actually win the Natty. They win the national championship. Pretty big accomplishment. Brand nerds, you will hear, see, and feel this in a minute. Bernard's first job out of undergrad is at IBM, where he successfully sells consulting services for 4 years before coming back to Chapel Hill, where he earns his MBA in marketing. It's the 1990s, brand nerds, and cable TV is booming. Bernard jumps on that train, first joining Discovery Networks, where he's an account manager responsible for launching the Learning Channel and other nets to the Midwest. He then joins HGTV Food Network as a director, where he is responsible for the Eastern Seaboard. And under Bernard's stewardship in his region, HGTV and Food Network go from 0 subscribers to 30 million, which is 38% of full national sales goals. After this success, Bernard joins the Tribune Company as VP of Sales and Marketing for a new product called Zap To It, which is an electronic program guide. With Bernard's leadership, in just 1 year, they quickly grow the business to 30 million households. This success leads Bernard to obtaining a truly special opportunity, becoming a founding member of TV One, which at the time is a new cable network targeting African-American viewers. Bernard manages all sales and marketing, and the network grows from 0 to 34 million subscribers with a net revenue impact of over $400 million. After 3 years, he is then elevated to special assistant to the CEO and spends the next 5 years managing a variety of items, including helping the network achieve profitability and obtaining more than 53 million subscribers. Now, brand nerds, this is where Bernard takes a major pivot. Not sure if you caught earlier when we said Bernard's dad was a university professor. Bernard gets the opportunity to join his and my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill, as the Richards Donahoe Social Entrepreneur in Residence, helping students with high-level startup strategy by teaching courses in the entrepreneurship minor. Additionally, he serves as a mentor to students in the minor and across the campus as they pursue innovative projects in all areas of entrepreneurial activity, with a special emphasis on reaching diverse populations. After 2 years, this program becomes so successful, Bernard is elevated to the executive director of the Shuford Program in Entrepreneurship, where he leads a high-performing team of faculty, entrepreneurs in residence, and corporate partners. Additionally, with Bernard's leadership, the program grows from 200 students to over 600 students, secures more than 35 million in endowment support, and gains national recognition as the #4 ranked entrepreneurship program in the country. Also, Bernard teaches the capstone class in the program, impacting more than 200 students annually. Concurrently, Bernard is also CEO of Urban Media Solutions, where he advises CEOs, founders, and executives on leadership, culture, and Gen Z engagement with a trademark focus on EQ over IQ. Known as the confidence professor, he equips leaders to translate emotional intelligence into business performance. In this realm, Bernard is also on the speaker circuit, where he helps attendees go from confidence to competence, mastering presence in every part of your life. In closing, Bernard has served on boards including the American Film Institute, iClub, and the American Dance Festival. He is also a proud member, as DC alluded to, of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and he's deeply committed to mentoring young men in leadership and life skills. Bernard is married to Stacy Cole Bell, an attorney turned government relations lobbyist for NBC Universal Comcast turned political consultant. Together, they share a passion for leadership, service, and empowering future generations. Welcome to Brands, Beats, and Bites, Bernard Bell.
Oh, that was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. Thank you for taking me on that journey, Larry, because I've forgotten about some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Your story, Bernard, I love watching Larry elegantly move his way and traverse the background of our guest. Oftentimes, far too often, and you know this, Bernard, we hear things like that said about other people as an obit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We'll
they're
see.
gone. Yeah, they're
We'll
gone.
see. We'll see.
Yeah. But
We'll
this
see.
is where on Brands, Beats, and Bites, you get your flowers while you're here. So this is Larry giving you your flowers, and they have been well earned. Well earned.
DC,
Yep.
thank you. And Larry, thank you for that, man. And that was, I always get a little self-conscious, I guess, when the spotlight's on me.
Yeah.
So hearing that, it's interesting to hear, but it's also a little uncomfortable, So thank you. Thank you, man.
Very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, now, Bernard, we're going to move to the first section of our podcast. It's called Get Comfy, where we ask a question to get you warmed up before we get into the meat of the podcast. Now, serendipitously, we were just on a college campus, and the students brought something to our mind. We talked to an undergraduate class, and we also sat with a graduate class, Bernard. And when you and Larry and I were in business school, because we were all in business school around the same time, if a person coming out of business school did not get a permanent role, it was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
It was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the students, not all,
yes,
most of the students got hired in their major at a well-compensated job. Most, not all.
That's right.
Today, the students remind us that's not the case. You know this.
I see it a lot.
Many who are exceptional students, they're not getting the jobs that they want. They're not, some of them aren't getting any employment, let alone underemployment.
Mm-hmm.
So here you are as the confidence professor. It makes sense to me, as Larry went through your background, that someone who is now described as the confidence professor, you had to have some of that to go through the matriculate through the career that you've had. However, your first job was at IBM, Bernard. This is coming out of undergrad. And these students wanted to know about the glory that some of our guests have, which we'll get into later, but they were really interested in step 0 to 1.
Yes.
The first job where you maybe didn't have people calling you the confidence professor. What was your mindset coming out of UNC, Tobacco Road, going into IBM unproven. Walk us through that so that students listening might glean something from you, brother.
So, DC, first of all, that was a great question. And I loved how you teed it up. And I think my response will be a little long-winded because I want to take you on a journey.
Please.
That's why we're on a podcast.
We're here. We're here.
Okay, good. So my senior year, I had been 4 years at Chapel Hill, going through a lot of ups and downs emotionally because in reality, I had low self-esteem. But that low self-esteem manifested itself as the loudest guy in the room. And so I'm the guy in the corner looking like everything's great. And I've come away from that experience saying the loudest guy in the room is usually the most insecure because that was me. But I played it well, so nobody really knew. I share that because I went through my entire senior year with no job. And so fall semester, all my fraternity brothers and my friends are getting the jobs. And we had this thing in the fraternity. Every time somebody got the job, you rang the bell. So, in October, November, you hear the bell. I'm like, that's my boy. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Christmas, you ring the bell. I don't have no job. They getting jobs. I'm like, you know what? That's my boy. I'm happy for him. Well, come spring break, right? Other people getting jobs. And I'm hearing that freaking bell ring. And I'm like, okay, I need to be happy because everybody says you're supposed to lift your brother up and be supportive. Yeah. Well, here it is. It's coming around the corner for graduation. And everybody's saying, what are you going to do when you graduate? Now, let me tee this up. My brother going to Chapel Hill here. He got out and went to medical school. My sister went to Chapel Hill here. She got out, got a master's, went to get a PhD. So nobody in my family's been in business. Everybody's either been farmers or teachers, a couple of doctors, some lawyers, but mostly just nobody's in business. And so I had decided I wanted to go into business, and my family's like, well, why would you want to do that? I thought you went to school to be a doctor. And I said, well, I did until I got that D in organic chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Like many do, by the way.
Yes, well, it was actually an F, but my sister got an A. And she got exempted from the exam. Well, this is before cell phones. I didn't know she wasn't coming to the exam. My plan was I was going to sit in, let's just say, in close proximity.
In close proximity, yeah.
Wait, Bernard, also, let's give
and then we would let the universe do what it does, right?
Let's give a shout out to Benita. That's Bernard's twin sister, who I know and love. Okay, keep going. And
she's brilliant, right? Chemistry major from Chapel Hill. So she doesn't show up, and I'm sitting at the exam. I'm like, well, where the hell is she? And you know that guy or gal that you have this very complicated exam, and then 20 minutes later, somebody walks up and they turn the exam in. And you're like, really? Right? I'm struggling. It's a 3-hour exam. I'm going to need at least 2 hours and 59 minutes. And they done turned it in. So I'm sitting there and saying, I'm like, well, I don't want to turn the exam in because it'll make me look like I'm flossing because I knew nothing. So finally, after about sitting there for 2 hours, and I'm thinking about, okay, I need to pick up my laundry, I need to do all this stuff, everything except doing my exam. And so I turned the exam in, and I got an F. Never got an F before. So my sister, who was one of the professor's favorite students, so I go to her, I said, Benita, can you talk to him and see if he'll change my grade to a B? Because I'm like, if you're going to ask,
you know, ask for the B. Okay.
You ask, I said an A is probably a little too... That feels a little too disingenuous. And so he called me into his office. She talked to him. And he says, now, Bernard, I will give you a D under one condition, that you never take another chemistry class at this university. And I was like,
wow.
And, DC, I was thinking, you know what? We're thinking the same thing. Right? I ain't got no problem with that. And so I got my D, and it changed my trajectory on what I wanted to do. And so now I didn't know what to do. So I ended up majoring in economics, I minored in math, with the thought that the math piece would tee me up for a good job. So back to interviewing. And so I remember 3 weeks before graduation, I'm sitting out on the steps of Graham Memorial. And my college career had been so up and down, personally, professionally, emotionally, mental health stuff. And I sat there and I was thinking, with all of the growth that I've had, would it stick? Like, was it just a a symptom of me being in these four walls, or with the lessons that I've learned and some of the things that I had espoused, would they carry on after school? And I was really conflicted. Well, I got my job at IBM 1 week before graduation.
Wow.
Wow.
And up until then, I got 34 first cousins. I got 24 aunts and uncles. Everybody's coming to graduation. They want to know, up until then, they're like, so what are you going to do when you graduate? So what are you going to do for graduate? And so my response was, I got so many things going on. I just need to pick one.
Okay.
And I didn't. I share that story because I am now in real time going through this with the students. And nobody's getting jobs. We've got about 40% of our class, senior class, we have 200 students right now, maybe 50% now that have jobs. And I remind them, number one is all you need is one. You just need one job. Most of our students don't start companies. They go out and get jobs. And last year, 84% of our graduating seniors, by the time school started, were gainfully employed. Okay. So where I would encourage the students to think about is, number one, what are your EQ skills and how are you leveraging them to circle the wagon of a job? And when I say that, I think most of the students, they go on the Handshake, they go on the LinkedIn, and that can take you so far. But now there's so much demand out there, and the supply is not consistent with the demand. And one of the things we teach them in our program is, who's your network? And many students that look like me don't have networks that can really help them get gainfully employed. So I say, how do you leapfrog into the networks of other people? Because other than my IBM job that I actually got through someone I knew, but I had to apply, all my other roles have been jobs where I was referred to. And so I filled out one job application, and all the others were referrals. And then I filled out the job application once I already knew I got the job. So it was kind of a formality. And so what I encourage the students to do is to level up their, what I call, power skills. How do you walk in a room? How do you engage with someone you don't know? And so we teach them things like, we have a template called F.O.R.M, family, occupation, recreation, message. So just as I get on this Zoom, our students, before they take my class in my program, they'll get on the Zoom. And if DC, you're there, Larry, you're there, they'll just sit there and wait for you to talk to them. And my position is, it is not anyone else's responsibility to engage you. It's your responsibility to engage the room. And so when we walk in, the first thing we ask them to say to anybody is, so where you from? Larry, where you from? You say Brooklyn, you say New York, I'm going to say Jets or Giants fan. And we teach them in DC, if you say Atlanta, I'm going to say, you're a Hawks, Braves, or Falcons fan. Who's your team? And what we try to encourage them to do is curate your brand in a way so that when you walk in any room, you've already thought about a couple of things. You've thought about your eye contact. You've thought about your handshake. You've thought about how you're going to traverse that room with your chest up, because if you walk like this versus walk like this, it sends a different message. What's your initial conversation that you're going to lead in with? What are three things, if there's nothing else that anyone has to talk about, what are your three things you're going to talk about? And for me, I've always got my three things. I keep it in my pocket. I had to speak at a luncheon today. I knew I was walking in with people I didn't know. Always get the guest list. I'm looking 3 people I want to meet. I find out little things about them. And then I get about the business of building an engagement. I don't network, I engage. And what I found is so many of these students are on this thing, and everything they do goes through this. So, for example,
that's the mobile device, cell phone, brand nerds.
Yes, sorry, yeah. And so if I'm watching a sunset, I put my phone down, because a phone cannot replicate the beauty of a real sunset. But my students say, "Oh my God, a sunset! Let me capture it." And so this distance that they put between themselves and their personal brand and the individual or the entity that they're trying to engage, it gets filtered down by this phone. And so what I am encouraging these young people to do is to get the person off your resume as quick as possible so they can get to know you. And that's an EQ skill. And nobody's teaching these young people that. And I hate to say nobody, and I rarely say nobody, never, or always, but I would argue in academia, no one's teaching what we call power skills or durable skills. Everyone's focused on reading, writing, arithmetic. My rule of thumb, DC, is that being smart is an 8-slice pizza. And academics is only one slice. But what someone has encouraged these young people to do is make academics the full pizza. And so, you know, our motto in our program is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the reason we made that, and so the reason we made that our motto was I wanted to take how smart you are off the fireplace mantle as the litmus test. Because I think that so many students now, at least I see it at Chapel Hill, being correct is their badge of honor. Being right is a badge of honor. But we're entrepreneurship. And the one thing that you learn in entrepreneurship or as an entrepreneur is that, you know, you fail, little success, fail, little more success, fail, little more success. And rarely does it happen the first time. And when you've been so used that A's are your determination of how smart you are, and then we stick you out in the desert and we give you 24 hours and you've got to create something or build something or be resourceful, they can't do it.
Yeah,
And
there's
so
no resilience.
None. And so what and that's a long way to answer the question. What I'm seeing is these students are so focused on being right and having the right answer, which works in academia. I say that works in academia. It works if I'm having heart operation. It works in medicine. But most parts of the world and most situations we in, just being right, that doesn't get you over the finish line. And so right is important, and right is it's the first step. But then you got to have those other 7 areas of that pizza, in my opinion, to walk into a room and walk out with the thing you walked in to get. And the reason I know that is most things I wanted early on, DC, I didn't get. And I think not getting them, it created those valley moments. And it's interesting, I'm hearing Larry talk about my background. And I always think about it, and I'm always, when people introduce me, and it always sounds like it's peak to peak to peak to peak. And what most of us don't do is from peak to peak, you typically got to go through the valley. And every time he mentioned something, and he mentioned the peak, but I thought about the valley, how I got to the next one. And I was thinking, how did I get to Tribune? Right. Well, some stuff happened at HGTV. I left. I ended up at Tribune. How to get to TV One? Well, some stuff happened at Tribune. I left. I got to TV One, and so forth and so on. And I think that's the piece that I don't think many of us adults are vulnerable enough to share, because I think the detail, you know, devil's in the detail. And I think when you share that detail, especially for these young people, it gives them a realistic takeaway of what their potential journey will really be like. So I know that was a long way to answer the question that I don't even remember what you asked.
No. You have nailed this, Bernard. Yeah, you've nailed this. Larry, any responses from what Bernard just laid down for the brand nerds?
We're going to get into it more later in what's popping, just so you know. So I love where Bernard's going, and you know, I knew Bernard is just awesome. I mean, you know, we go way back. You know, DC, got to share this with you and the audience. Bernard and I lived in the same apartment complex,
right?
So we would be going this way and that way. And then we met each other early, and then we start talking, hey, how you doing?
Yes.
And then the next thing you know, Bernard and I would sit down, we'd look, oh shit, I gotta get to somewhere. We always would have these like deep
Real
conversations,
Nice.
real conversations about a lot of stuff. And so, that's why I was so looking forward to having him on the pod, because, he's been through a lot, and he's happy to talk about it too. And Bernard, we always say the best guests are vulnerable, and you can tell already, like even talking about the valleys and how that gets you to, where you need to go. So I'm thrilled to have him on, and I think we can move to the next segment.
Great
I
opening.
had something I want to say before we move to the next segment, Larry. But right after this, Bernard, we are going to go to the next segment. Brand Nerds, a little context. Bernard went to IBM. At that time,
Yes.
IBM, I mean, they're one of the top countries in the world now. They may have been top 10 or top 5 in the world at that time. So he goes from not having a job
Right.
to 1 week out going to IBM. And it's not like he left and went to. I'm not defaming at all.
I know what you mean, but
he went to like I don't know,
like working at a Target as a
right, that's
something.
not to defame Target. That's not
right.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna defame anybody, Target would be no.
Okay. Well, that's gonna be a different
Just
segment.
joking.
Number 2 is you talked about F.O.R.M, which is an acrostic. You said family, occupation. What's R and M?
Yeah, so R is recreation, and then M is
Recreation. Okay.
and the M, DC, is what you really walked into the room to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I can't come in and say, Larry, would you hire me? But I'm really there to get a job.
Yeah.
But I'm engaging them, right? So I'm following them around. And if you follow me around at any cocktail party, any engaging network event, I have the same conversation. Okay. I have the same conversation. I'm asking the same questions, but based on the responses, the narrative's different. So if you say you're from LA, I'm gonna say, are you a Raiders fan? Who's your favorite team? And then I'll go into family. So I might say, so DC, you from such and such, your mom and daddy grew up there?
Yeah.
And then they meet, how many brothers and sisters you have, with your brothers and sisters, where they at, and then occupation, what industry you in? And you say, and then I'm like, so is that something that you're enjoying? What brings you joy when you go to work? And to get them talking. And then occupation, you look like you work out, going to the gym, you're a Carolina basketball fan. And then I'll say, well, listen, man, this has been great. Would love to stay in touch. What's the best way we can connect? Because I am really interested in the industry you're in. And I'd love to grab a cup of coffee if you're open to it, and maybe pick your brain on how I might expand my thinking about your industry. And we script this, and in class, every class, I bring students up to the front, and they have to form each other. Because what I realize, if you don't do it in real life, you think you got it, but you don't have it.
All right, final point, and then we go into the next section, Bernard, is you talked about you walk in with 3 things. You want to talk to 3 people. I love 3s. There is science behind why 3s are important. But we're going now to 5 questions. Larry and I go back and forth, hitting you with a total of 5 questions. I'm up. What was the first branding experience that you can recall? First, I see you already laughing. That you were so into it, Bernard, you lost track of time. You weren't into it because mom or dad said this is, or sibling said, oh, you should do this, Bernard. You were into it because you loved it. Almost like a first love. What was this for you?
Oh my God. So her name was Teresa Graves.
Okay.
She was an actor. I guess they say actor back then, but she was an actor. And the show was Get Christy Love.
Get Christy Love.
And
Okay.
Get Christy Love was a police detective in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And she had beauty, she had brains, and she had a badge. She had an afro.
Yeah.
She would tighten up that belt around her waist. And I think I might have been 9 or 10 or
Yeah.
something. But I would say I think they did 22 episodes. I saw all of them.
Okay.
And I just remember, I remember her. I can tell you what clothes she wore, how she had her hair,
Oh wow.
how the pants would fall over her bum, as they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Understood.
but you know what? I think part of it was weren't a lot of black women on television then.
Yep. Yep.
You did not see a lot of black women with power. And I grew up in a family where my dad had, it was 12 of them. He had 8 brothers and 4 sisters. My mother had 6 sisters. And I grew up in a family where women were very valued and we
Mm-hmm.
were taught to respect them. And when you grow up in a household where there's a lot of black women around, and my friends would be like, they're like, why your aunts, why they shout at you? I'm like, they're not shouting. That's just how they talk. They get up in your face. They talk to you like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very healthy respect for, I think, black women in power. And
Mm.
but I never seen it. And so I'd never seen a black female cop. I don't even know if they had them then. And so that was very iconic in my youth was Teresa Graves, Get Christy Love. We even named we got a puppy, and her name was Christy Love.
That's great.
Ah. Okay.
That's great. You know what I love about this, D, is that the reason why we ask the question, Bernard, is that brands that really you connect with, you can wax eloquently without even, just it's just there, right? It's just and so here's something that when you were a kid that
Yes.
you're giving us
Yeah.
all this detail for, and we just love getting that from our guests, and that was awesome the way you just described that, man. That was great.
That really was. Okay. I'm gonna go nature for a moment. Larry knows this about me. So does Jade and Jeff. But Bernard, I use nature often as a reference point for business
I understand.
because there's a balance, there's a
Yeah.
rhythm,
Yes.
there's a perfection even in its imperfections. So I
Yes.
try to find analogs in nature and apply them to business and also my personal life. Now let me come to you in this Get Christy Love. Uh, a fruit in nature, if you have an orange and you squeeze the orange, what will come out of the orange is orange juice because that's what's inside of an orange.
Mhm.
You're not going to squeeze an orange and get prune juice.
Right. Right. Right.
Impossible, because that's going to come from a different fruit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would dare say that personally, for you, the reason why Get Christy Love was so important is because the fruit that you became, being around all these black women that were valued, is when you squeeze a young Bernard Bell, the juice that comes out is respect for women,
Yes.
Ooh.
respect for valuable, powerful women.
Yes. Yes.
So because that squeeze of your fruit, this is how you can look to, this was in my home. I'm now seeing it on TV outside of my home. The converse is also true. I think it's hard for a brother who has not
Mm.
seen
Mm.
a woman, a powerful black woman in his life that is
Mm.
valued. If he's never seen that or experienced it, when you squeeze him, Christy Love and Get Christy Love is not coming out. It's not because he is angry. It's not because something's wrong with him. It's just you ain't gonna get that orange juice out of him. You're gonna get prune juice.
Analogy.
Yeah.
DC is good analogy. Ironically, on my mother's side, she had 5 sisters. All of them except one went to college. My mother
Okay.
got she got her master's from Columbia. Aunt got her PhD from University of Chicago. And my aunt, if she were alive today, she'd be probably 115.
Oh wow.
Um, my other aunt went to Winston-Salem State. My other aunt went to Bennett College. They all had terminal degrees. And I think I was raised. It's interesting. A lot of my uncles were a little more probably chauvinistic.
Yep,
But
yep.
my daddy was the first Black person in this little town of Reedsville to go to college. And I think as a result, he picked my mother. She spotted him in the library at A&T. She was at Bennett. He was at A&T.
Okay.
And so the girls at Bennett would go over to A&T, and their mindset was, well, if they're in the library, they study. And if they study, they're going to be somebody. And they're going to be somebody.
Okay.
They're a good husband.
Good
And
logic.
so,
Good logic.
makes sense,
Yep.
right? And so they were all over in the library, and she met my daddy, and she said, even though he had his pants, his belt buckle was right under his nipples, like way high,
Yeah, yeah.
and you could see his ankles, and said he didn't know how to dress. He grew up on a farm, you know, but he said when he first met her, he said to her, "Yes, ma'am." And she's like, "Man, they same age." I think she might have been a year or two younger, but he said, "Yes, ma'am." And so, because he was raised to respect women, even though his dad, my grandfather, had a sixth grade education, you know, he was a farmer, but whatever they did with the women thing, man, they made sure that the women were supported. My mother she was not a buttercup, right? She was very strong personality. She was going to make sure my daddy was president of NAACP in Greensboro. My mother was secretary. And it's interesting. I just had a very healthy respect. I thought everybody did, but I had a very healthy respect for women growing up.
And also, you have your twin sister who is the bomb in every way. Like,
yeah, she's a PhD at NASA. She's been doing that for about 22 years.
Wow.
Her whole thing is, if you're going to be a female scientist, you got to look good. You can't come in, you know, to kitchen all messed up. Some people may not know what it is.
Yeah.
The hair in the back. But and so I think, and I, you know, my mother was a bit of a fashionista, so I think we got a lot of I never heard it put like that, DC. I may borrow that analogy about the orange juice. And if we put it on a t-shirt, I'm an entrepreneur, you'll get your 10%.
No, brother, we're going to flip that. I'm getting 90, you getting 10. All right. Next question, Larry.
All right, Bernard. So and this is a great segue, who is Hatters having the most influence on your career?
So, you know what? That's an easy question. There's this brother by the name of Jonathan Rogers. And when I met Jonathan, I met him at this restaurant called Jean Georges in New York City in the Trump, it was the Trump building right at 57th and Central Park West.
Yeah.
And I saw him, he was going around from table to table. It was a cable event. And I found out later he was president of Discovery Channel. And before, he had been president of CBS News. And he had gone to Berkeley undergrad, got his journalism degree from Stanford. But when I got to TV One, he had been named president. And how I got to TV One, long story, but when I found out he was president, drive down to Silver Spring, meet him. It was just, we just got along great, hired me on the spot, second person there. But by the time when I met him, he was on the board of Procter & Gamble and had been on it about 15 years when I met him. He was on the board of Nike, and he was on the board of NBC Universal.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, those boardships, that's money in stock. But more importantly, he knew how to run a company. And most importantly, he had no ego. And for him to have had the roles that he had, Black man, education that he had, he was an alpha and he was a veteran. But he had this.
Can you go back again, just for the people in the back of the pew? He was a
He was a veteran. Veteran.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I know where
before that.
CEO.
No, in the middle. In the middle.
Discovery Channel, CBS News.
The brother was an alpha, okay? Just want to make that clear. He can't even say it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know, it hurt me the first time to say it, but I didn't say it. So he was an alpha. But more than anything, he understood how to lead. And I remember New York Times came and we launched this network it was TV One. We launched it on MLK's birthday in 2003. And so big launch event, New York Times, Washington Post comes to talk to him. And he says, you know what? I think you need to talk to one of my team members, Bernard Bell. I was so excited because I needed the external validation, right? And so he knew how to take the spotlight off himself and put it on everybody else. And what I learned from him was, if I, as a leader, make it about me and I have a team, the team will have a challenge in supporting me because I'm just lifting me up. And I'm doing it on the heels of all the efforts that they're putting out. Okay. But if I, as the leader, take that spotlight and turn it around on them, and make it always, always, always about them, then they will want me to lead them because I make it about them. And it has got that one metaphor that I saw him do. It has guided me from the time I met him through my life, and especially in this role, which is a real leadership role. He taught me how to build culture from the ground up. He taught me that culture trumps strategy all day long, because if the people don't feel good about coming to work, they're not going to tell you which way to go. He taught me how to listen, because I would say things to him and he would say, okay, Bernard, now let me repeat back to you what I think I just heard. He taught me how to manage conflict. He would start saying, so Larry, you and I have a good working relationship, right? And I'd say, yeah. He'd say, well, we need to put that aside for a minute so we can have a tough conversation. And you good with that? And I'd say, wow. And then he'd say, when you did such and such, Bernard, it made it feel like you didn't respect us, or such and such and such and such. But then he would say, but I know you. And so I know you didn't mean to do it that way. But I need to know why you did it and what you're thinking. And he would say, but again, I know you, Bernard. I know you didn't mean to do it that way, but I need to know why you did it and what you were thinking. And he taught me to always give your opponent an elegant way out of the corner. You don't deserve it. And it has guided me, and he's an amazing dude. And his network of people is, I mean, he'd have Rupert Murdoch on the phone. When Obama was running, he would do mock interviews with Obama. And it was just his network. He knew Valerie Jarrett. I mean, everybody. And you would not know he knew any of them unless you saw them and him physically. And so he taught me to keep my ego in my back pocket. And I think ego is part of what messes up people and environments and corporations and so forth. Everybody needs to be so important that they can't let the other people shine. And so he would be Jonathan Rogers. That's Johnathan. So one thing he was, as my grandfather used to say, Pacific about.
Yeah.
He was very Pacific about the H in his name. And so, but he's amazing. He's an amazing dude.
I don't think there's anything to add. That's incredible.
Nothing for me
there. That's awesome, Bernard. Thanks for sharing.
Let me know if I'm talking too long.
You're doing great.
I'm a talker. I'm a talker, man. So
you're good. You're good.
Do you want to hit the next question?
Yep. Thank you, Larry. Bernard, Larry gave you your flowers at the top. You have had enormous success. These are the peaks. You've also talked about the valleys. This next question has to do with one of these valleys. And that is, what is the biggest F up in your career? And when we say F up, Bernard, we're not talking about one where, well, if my manager hadn't done this or the market shifted. This is one where you thought you were right. Back to your earlier question in the Get Comfy section about people trading on right and grades and smartness. You thought you were right. You were dead ass wrong. You made the mistake. And most importantly, Bernard, what did you learn from said F up?
Well, I have a lot of them, and all of them are big. And so what I realized is, I have said sometimes, Bernard, you have a big personality. And so sometimes the things you do, because you teed it up trying to be the man, right? The F up, and I'm assuming that's capital EFF.
Yeah, you can. You don't need all the letters. You don't need them all.
Hey, all right,
but
okay.
Yes.
So when I was at TV1, and I was second person there, and so I basically hired everybody and helped build a culture and everything, and I was feeling really good about myself. It was my first. I was senior vice president. It was my first senior vice president title, and it was a real senior vice president. Like, I had equity, and the salary was good and everything.
Yeah.
And so I had just come out of HGTV. And this whole lifestyle programming, I felt like I knew it. I was the 13th person at HGTV. The founder was a UNC alum, so I had a little gravitas coming in. And ego got big. I'll talk about that at some point. But so I get to TV1, and we are trying to make some programming decisions. And so I had decided this lifestyle programming, that's what the Black people need. And so, because you didn't see uh, like design shows with Black folks, you didn't go into homes of Black people and everything. So I was like, I know this is it. Gardening, home interiors, architecture, and so forth. So I get the board to allocate $55 million for us to do programming, lifestyle
Okay.
programming. And, you know,
Now,
we're
well,
making,
I'm sorry, Bernard. What year is this?
this would have been about 2004 or five, maybe.
So we're talking $50 million back then.
Right, and that's 55 because
Oh,
five is a
55,
lot.
55 million. Yeah, 55. Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Okay.
and so we're going through all the programming. It's our first programming slate. And when you're back then, you would introduce your program, and you'd either do it at an upfront,
Upfront.
so advertisers come. We would show it internally so that all the sales team knew it. They wouldn't go out and sell. And my job was to get distribution. So we would go out to all the cable systems across the country, and now I'm in charge of all of it, plus Canada. So we get all the cable systems across the country, and the metrics were, if you get on in New York City had 1 million subscribers. The financial metrics were Time Warner Manhattan would pay us, say, a quarter per subscriber per month. If you do the math, you got $1 million, 25 cents. That's
Carriage, brother.
$250.
Carriage.
You know what I'm saying, right? And so with the increase in that, they were 10-year deals. So once you got a deal done, you knew 10 years. So we could do programming deals knowing that the future revenue was coming in.
And that's without any money coming from advertising. I just
Correct.
want
This is this is not,
Oh,
it
yeah.
has nothing
Yeah.
to do
this
with
is distribution, carriage, as DC alluded to. So brand nerds, that's just like foundation money. Go ahead,
Correct.
Bernard.
And so when you paid your cable bill back in the day, part of that, you pay $150 or $200. Part of that, I got 25 cents of that. ESPN got $1. History Channel got 10 cents, so forth and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so $55 million, shows go up on the air, nobody's watching. Nobody. We picked, and there were a lot of men there. We picked hosts for the shows that were beautiful, light-skinned women.
Yeah.
And what we found was that a lot of the people who were watching were working women or single moms, and they were home during the day because this is daytime programming. And back then, people weren't working from home; they go to work. And so, what we found, $55 million, one season later, nobody's watching. And so we amortized it. We amortized it 55,000 over 10 years to go along with the distribution. So it's really $5 million a year, five and some change. But I had to go before the board and say, you know what, ratings are down. And so the question was why did we do lifestyle programming? And DC and Larry, do you know the reason we did lifestyle programming? I thought I knew the Black viewing consumer behavior experience because I thought I was smart. And I thought I knew my people. And I thought I knew the industry. And I thought without doing the market research, right? Customer discovery, interviewing the customer, finding out who the customer is, going so deep as to what's the playlist that our customers are listening to, right? What cars are they driving? What's hanging up in their closet, right? And had we done some some customer personas, but I was so smart, right? Got this big job, got this title, and I need to make a name for myself to let them know that I'm a veteran because I've been in the industry for a minute. And any other person, I believe, would have been let go. But because I had a relationship with the CEO, and we were being a bit entrepreneurial. We raised $130 million to do this. So you do the math. Now we're taking 5, even though it's 55, we're amortizing over 10 years, so we're really pulling 5 off the balance sheet. But it was a public. It was a. You know what it did for me? It made me realize that, number one, I was not as smart as I thought I was. And I really thought I was really smart. I mean, like I thought I was, I hate to say it, but I really thought I was smart. And what can happen many times when you have success in one vertical, we leapfrog into other verticals and we make the assumption that the same competence that we had in this one vertical, we take it over to other areas, and that's not smart. And I don't do that anymore. But that was, if you can imagine going to our board meeting and having to defend that. You see what I'm saying? And it was if that don't put your ego in your back pocket, DC, I don't know what does. But that was, and sadly, that wasn't the biggest one, but that was the biggest one I want to talk about.
That's a big one, though.
The big one.
That is a great one. That's a great one. Larry, any response to that? What a fantastic answer, and what nuggets are in there for the brand nerds. But Larry, you got any thoughts? I have one.
Yeah, I just want to say 2 things. One, Bernard, thanks for sharing. That's one of our best ones. Honestly, that's really
no
awesome.
doubt.
And the second one is that, as you said, brand nerds, we all build up chips in life. You build up things that when you do well, they're positive chips, and when you don't do well, there's negative chips, right? So Bernard had built up positive chips.
Yeah.
But he was also standing in front of that board. And I guess to the brand nerds, is there anything, the way you handled that, Bernard, that enabled you to stick? Like, did you try and fight it, or did you just own it? Did you own the whole thing?
Well, Larry, it's interesting you would ask me that, because that is one of my pet peeves with people. Like, my attitude, and I learned this from Jonathan, if it happens on my watch, it might be 15 people down in the organization somewhere. But if it happens on my watch, I stand up and say, I did not make this happen.
Right.
And I learned that from my boss, Jonathan, because he took the bullet on that one, right? As a good leader.
Right.
But I also had to learn, I think I lost some agency with the board.
Yeah.
Sure.
No doubt.
I think
you should have lost some agency. You should.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, DC. Sometimes just hear me. You don't have to comment.
Yeah.
But I think I lost some agency. I lost a lot of agency with the board. I think things like that make your judgment get questioned.
Sure.
And what I have learned as my career has kind of gone in different ways is that good business is good judgment. And I think good judgment is a reflection of asking good questions to smart people who will tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that I tended to surround myself with people who would tell me how great I was, because I needed that. And I, and all of this, I think, ties back to my whole piece on self-esteem and confidence. I was so needy in having them think that I was smart, that I wanted to show them how smart I was. And in my attempt to show them how smart I was, I didn't do my due diligence, right? I should have been out on the street corners in the hood talking to people, and then going to Prince George's County and talking to the folks and getting all these different pockets of data. But I just assumed, because I had been at HGTV and the programming was good, that if I built it, they would come.
Right.
and it didn't work like that. The other thing I realized was from a female branding perspective, many of my cousins, my female cousins, may want to edit this out, but they're not 95 pounds. They're not 120 pounds. We picked hosts for these shows that were light skinned and like frizzy hair and like 120, 130 pounds. And what we learned was that many of our viewers who were female, and some of them were single moms and they're working and so forth, and they ain't got time to go to the gym. They're looking at these women and they didn't know those women, right? That was not what they thought of when they thought about Black woman.
Right.
And again, I did not take time to do the due diligence and the customer discovery because I thought I knew. I thought I knew the Black community. I thought I knew how Black people, and especially if you're the college educated, so forth and so on. Well, what we found is that demographic of Black consumers, they're working. So they're the least folks that watch television because they're not home during the day. So all these insights that you get after the check done cleared, it's hard to go back and say, oh yeah, so and so that one decision guided me on how to make decisions, how to communicate those decisions, but also how to do your due diligence before you even open your mouth.
All right, Bernard, I'm going to say this quickly because we need to get to the next question. 2 points. One, regarding the fact that you thought you knew and didn't do market research. I'm going to give you a little bit of grace here because during that time, early 2000s, quite a bit of what was happening at cable stations and networks was led by people who were working almost exclusively off of instincts.
That's true.
Jeff Zucker at NBC, Les Moonves at CBS, Peter Chernin at Fox, Ted Turner before that. These folks had a feel for it. So I'm going to give you some grace for that. Still, you should have done the research, I agree. But the metrics at that point were different than they are today. The metrics, that's the data. That's number one. Number two is this. When you said that you all had lightly complected Black women with frizzy hair, and some of the your viewers were like, this, I don't know this person. Sometimes, brand nerds, we make decisions that are almost into our brains through osmosis. Nothing is necessarily directly said, but something's coming into us. So, brand nerds, I'm just going to say this. I don't even want you to respond, Bernard. I don't. I want to go to the next question because I know she didn't do this. But if you think about Kathy Hughes, founder.
Yes.
Founder.
Bad
woman. And how she looks and how she likely looked at that time, pretty close. Pretty close to what you described, Bernard. Don't want you to say anything about it. So to decide to put up a bunch of women that look like Oprah when you've got Kathy Hughes as the founder, a trailblazing pioneer, will cut things off. I ain't gonna get into what. Okay, she's a bad woman. These kinds of decisions can get made. They can get made without even recognizing it. All right, Larry, let's hit the next question.
All right, Bernard. So regarding technology and marketing, you've seen a lot from a lot of different angles. Can you tell us where you think marketers should lean on or best leverage tech? Or you can take us to an area that they should be leery or simply avoid. What say you?
So, as an academic who's got one foot in the business world, I've really been trying to lean into AI tools. I am optimistic on many fronts. I am extremely pessimistic on many fronts, like I think many of us. But I have found that the AI agents, number one, there's so many of them coming out. I'm on some newsletters and just trying to keep up with the volume of AI agents. It's
Yep.
overwhelming.
Yep.
I know for me, I use a lot of Chat GPT. I use Claude. I use Perplexity. I'm using Claude to build websites. We have our students build out websites. So interesting. Last year, they would build their own websites and it would take them forever. This year, it takes them maybe a day.
Right.
But I am using AI tools primarily for productivity. I do things like given a given month, I have to do 30 letters of recommendation. And what I used to do is get the resume, and then I'd sit down and write out this letter of recommendation because I needed to make it very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I've done, I have a template that I use.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take that template and I take the template and the resume and I put that into Chat GPT or Claude.
Mm-hmm.
And it spits out something that's much more elegant than I can use.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also finding Chat and Claude, I use it, my little side hustle is real estate. And a lot of my properties, I will rent them, I'll buy them, I renovate them, I rent them furnished. And I'm finding the Chat GPT is an amazing 3D rendering tool. So
Ah.
yeah, I can take a blank space or floor plan. My strategy has been, I live in North Carolina, so High Point, so you can get great furniture at great furniture, like $10,000 sofas, $400-500 come furniture market time. So I can furnish a place for about $2,500 with $25,000 of furniture in it. But I can take these tools, take the furniture, and have them do everything.
Wow.
And all my guys have to do is go pick up the furniture and place it because I have a 3D diagram that they already have.
Right.
That process for me used to take me probably a month.
Right.
Because I have to get the stuff, put it in, get it in the property, have to think about how to do it and so forth. I'm not there all the time. And so that's one redesign that I've used technology tools in. What we're doing though at home is at 9:30, alarm goes off. We take our phones, we put them in the garage, in the car, in the garage, and we don't pull them out until 7:30 next day. Because what I was finding, me and Stacy would get in bed. She's on her side, I'm on my side, and we're swiping to like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And even though we're physically right next to each other, we are miles away intellectually. And I have seen an entire difference in my personal productivity. But when we watch movies, we used to watch movies and we'll run the movie back like we'd be like, stop, rewind, because we'd be on our phones watching the movies.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is there's a lot, AI gives me personally a lot of productivity. But I'm also not sure if the overall net productivity score is positive.
Right.
Because I'll go home in the kitchen before I take off my clothes and everything, and I'm on that phone for like 2 hours going down rabbit holes, just sitting there, and I'm not even aware I'm doing it. And so there are a lot of other tools I use, but I'm still basically using Chat, Claude, and Perplexity.
Love this. I don't think there's anything to add from my standpoint. Do you have anything to add? Or you want to go to the next question?
I don't. I use the same three.
We do.
Final question.
Yes, we do.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of?
Yeah.
What I am most proud of, and I'll say it, and I'll qualify it, is myself. And the reason I say that is when I got to Chapel Hill as a freshman, I didn't know who I was, didn't really like who I was, wanted to be everybody else except myself. And I think about this song, Eleanor Rigby puts on her face in a jar by the door. And so I had my athlete friends, and I had my nerd friends, and I had my weed smoking friends, I had my alcohol friends, and depending on who I was that person.
Mm.
And I think I went through most of my 20s, even when Larry knew me, of either going from thinking I was all that, which I think is a typically insecurity, to not thinking I was enough, which is also, insecurity. And I have finally, after I read over 200 books on how to win friends and influence people,
Mm.
I've been doing therapy for 20 years. Amazing dude by the name of Lloyd Bowers in New York City. And I am proud of the fact that I'm an amazing leader.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm an amazing leader is I think I learned from Jonathan about the power of culture and the power of, if you're gonna, if you got to walk beside the people that you're leading. Sometimes you got to walk behind them to push them. Sometimes you got to walk in front of them to pull them. But I think I'm proud of the fact that if anybody who knows me, they would say if I'm a shepherd, I smell like my sheep. Like I'm in there with them,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
I, I never get so far ahead of them. There are times I'm right by them, right beside them, but there are also times, and which is most of the time, that I let them lead because I think even in an academic environment, though, these young people are amazing. They're smart, and I want to be a lifelong learner. And I feel like I have finally wrestled my own ego um, into my back right pants pocket, and uh, I've been fortunate enough to keep it there. And there are times that I pull it out, and I'm not. I'm. I think when I do, I am aware of the fact that I am doing that, and I try to check myself. And it's interesting, like I have a healthy ego. It's not, and I think I'm confident, but it's genuine confidence. It's like from the inside out. It's not performative. And a lot of me back in the day was very performative. It's not loud. And a lot of me back in the day was loud. And I think it's very genuinely trying to lift as I climb. My old boss
Mm.
John used to say, "Well, ain't no fun being on a private jet by yourself, right?"
Mm.
And so you're gonna do it. You want to be able to floss just a little bit and have your boys with you. And so I have learned that so many things that we do, if the team's not there with you, the victory is not as sweet. And I think I have finally gotten to where I thought I'd get to when I was in my 40s.
Mm.
Um, but I know how to lead. And I think you could drop me down in any environment, anywhere in the world, and I could get you from point A to point B because I finally understand
Mm.
that thing, right?
Mm.
And that thing, I believe it's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm.
And then it's lifting as we climb, and it's making sure that you smell like your sheep. And
Mm.
and I can do it all now. It's my DNA now, right? And I think as a result, when I in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth and I look in my eyes, I like the person that I see for the right reasons,
Mm.
right? And so it sounds very egotistical to just talk about not having ego, but tell you all that I am most proud of myself.
Mm.
Like I would say that, I think.
Yep.
I actually
Wow.
get it. I want to say
I do
one quick,
too.
yeah, D, we DC and I have a lot of these kind of conversations. And Bernard, I want to say one thing before we head to the next section, because we've known each other for a long time, um, and we always connected. And
Didn't we? Always,
right,
always.
and when we were in our 20s, brand nerds, both of us, I was the same as Bernard. We were gonna make shit happen,
Yes.
right?
Cocky about We were cocky about it.
Exactly. And so that's part of the life experience that and the journey that one takes. And DC and I, just a few years later, we're at Coca-Cola. And, if you don't have a healthy ego and exert yourself in a way that is a bit performative, dare I say, right, D? Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have the wherewithal to do that, you don't accomplish stuff. So this is
No,
the
yeah.
path that you took, that DC took, and that I took. And brand nerds, what we want you to take away from this is that it's really important for you to get down in the way you need to get down at the time you're getting down, but get underneath it all and get to know yourself as quickly as possible.
Well said.
That's really the key here,
Well
right?
said. Well said. Hard to do. Hard to do.
Very hard to do. And
But well
by
said.
the way, brand nerds, we've now I'll say this. We've all been in therapy, all three of us, okay? We've all accomplished stuff. We've all had real valleys and real peaks, and that's part of living. And you learn a lot more from the valleys than you do from the peaks,
You preaching, Larry. You preaching, bro. You preaching.
right?
Very much so.
So last segment, this is and it's we've already touched upon this because we talked about this, Jade, Bernard and I, the other day, but I think it's really important, brand nerds, for us to double down on this. And this is our What's Poppin' segment. And Bernard, again, as we tell tell our brand nerds who are listening, this is our chance to shout down, or simply air something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion. And it goes to Bernard, you touched upon it in the Get Comfy, is presenting oneself. And it's the first thing that people see, brand nerds, whether you're at the first day in class, the first job, the first job interview. You're sitting down and there's that moment of truth in the way you present yourself. And by the way, usually, I don't know, I forget what the statistics are, but usually when you're doing a job interview or when you're presenting yourself or just meeting someone, people are making judgments in like 5 seconds, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's how you appear, how confident you are, how you present yourself, how engaged you are. So Bernard, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because again, you talked a little bit to us at the beginning and then the other day about when you have kids sit down in your class and they say, "My name is Joey Smith," and
Stop.
and that's it.
Yes.
Can you go further on that?
Yeah. So my whole thing is executive presence, and I look at individuals. The people go out and they want to network, and they go to. I say the cameras start rolling when you get out the car, because you don't know who's watching. And what I have tried to make sure that I help our students do is you think about what everybody else is doing, and then you do the opposite. And so at Chapel Hill, if you ask a student, so tell me about yourself, the first thing they'll say is, well, I'm a junior majoring in, I'm like, stop. That's what everybody says. You just put yourself in a sea of the other 3,999 seniors that are graduating, coming to get jobs. And so what can you do to give yourself that 10% minimum elevation? And so what I teach them to do is you craft your 30-second elevator pitch, because everything you're doing is curating your brand.
Yes.
And the students will say, you mean fake it till you make it? I'm like, not at all. Curating your brand means that you start being intentional about certain activities, skills, conversations, and you start doing it and you build upon them. And so there's some memorization, but my counsel is, if you want to be an investment banker and you're talking to the head of Goldman Sachs and he says, well, tell me about yourself. My suggestion and recommendation I've seen worked is take me on a journey from the time you were born until you're now. Because when you say I'm a junior majoring in economics, you just became a junior 2 years ago. So I want to know not only what you do, but who are you? So I'm going to encourage you to say, and when I was 6 years old, I was doing my building blocks And I realized I love counting them, and my love of numbers was more. When I got to high school, I was a captain of the volleyball team and I played soccer, and that's where my teamwork and leadership skills were honed. So you're checking those boxes. And applying to college, if I applied to some Ivies or whatever, I'm going to say I applied to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Chapel Hill. I chose Chapel Hill. While here, I've been involved in my fraternity. I was on the speech team, and I learned a lot about intellect and how to process strategy. When I graduate, I'd love to be in an environment where I'm in investment banking and I can affect other people's lives. But something that gives me a bit of a narrative, because if they're talking to you, they're probably talking to other people. And you want to make sure that you throw in some landing peaks so they will remember you. So I've got one student who's from West Africa, but he went to boarding school in London. And so he says, well, I'm a junior major. I'm like, stop. You got a whole lot to share where automatically people would remember you. So when you send your email, a handwritten note to that gentleman, you remind him, I'm the gentleman from West Africa who was at boarding school. Now, all of a sudden, I remember you. What I see happening is a lot of students say, well, I don't want to brag. I'll say, well, are you smart? They're like, I'm okay. And I'll say, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the smart students because this is your opportunity. It's not bragging, but this is your opportunity to floss, and you may only have that one opportunity. And so when I think about executive presence, to me, it's how you walk in. Do you walk in with your head down or your head up, your chest up, chest down? And people don't think about it. But all of it's, you just said it's all of it. You get on a Zoom, am I leaning back? I get on Zooms and people are on their bed with laundry on the bed. And they wonder, and they're like, Mr. B, I didn't get the job. I'm like, well, did you record let me hear it. And they record, and I'm like, first of all, I see some dirty drawers back there on the sheets. That ain't gonna fly.
I
right?
see it. So you know they
I can
saw it.
see it, right? And I screenshot it, I zoom in. And so what I've realized is they genuinely don't know. And I say executive presence, especially when they're in college, because your competition is not thinking like that at all. And when I think about all these schools down in North Carolina, everybody releases 4,000 students to the world. You got Chapel Hill, North Carolina Central, Duke University, NC State, Wake Forest, and you're releasing all these students to the world, and that's your competition. If you don't get your edge, you will know you didn't get it because you're sitting out there in the desert with no job in a diaper because you ain't got no money. And it's all because you did not prepare yourself. And so I use all of that to lead you into developing confidence because I can spot it a mile away. And when you walk in and you're holding your body like this, got your arms wrapped, and I see it all the time. You stand in front of the class, you're leaning, rocking back and forth. I'll say, stop. Stand still, right? Figure out what you're going to do with your hands because your hands are part of your body. Your body is part of your overall presence, but nobody's sharing this with them. And Larry, it makes all the difference in the world. And see, man, I got receipts. And I said, I got so many students that have used what I have taught and they've got these great jobs and their careers go up and they know how to ask the right questions to get insight as opposed to telling people what they already know, right? And so it's something that I take seriously. I do seminars across the country doing this, and I think my goal is to make sure that the students feel good about themselves because having been one who had low self-esteem, I know how the meeting or the conversation goes when I feel good. But I also know how it doesn't go when I'm walking in with this cloud over my head, and I had a cloud over my head for most of my 20s.
Love this. This is exactly what we'd hope you'd share. D, anything to add before we?
I do. Example. When I went to business school, I went to Clark Atlanta University. It was at AU, Atlanta University, and then became Clark Atlanta University.
Was Mike
I
Parker,
was
that name ring a bell? Mike Parker, fraternity brother of mine. Was he there when you were there? He
that
went to work
does
for
kind of ring a bell.
and he
Yeah,
went to work for
yes, yeah.
McCormick. He went to
With
work for
McCormick,
McCormick.
McCormick,
Yes.
sharp brother,
Yes. Sharp brother.
sharp brother.
Sharp brother. That was a fraternity
Yeah,
brother.
he was a couple of years ahead of me, but yes,
Yes.
yes,
Awesome, man. Small world.
brilliant brother, Mike Parker. I
I don't know if he was
hadn't heard his
brilliant,
name
but
in
he was
years.
smart. I don't know if he was brilliant, but he was smart.
Yeah, okay, he was smart. Okay, all right, okay.
Saying
Well,
that
that's
a
your
few years
fraternity. That's your fraternity brother. That's your fraternity brother. So I was there because my GPA was so low and my GMAT in combination was also low. I was rejected at first and then admitted on a probationary basis. I was highly intimidated. At that time, there weren't many black folks going to business schools,
Correct.
the best business schools around the country. So at that time, the number one producer of black MBAs in the world was Atlanta University. So
I
the
didn't know
best
that.
of the best, yes, the creme de la creme found themselves, black MBAs found themselves at AU and then CAU. I'm in there just trying to stay alive. The jobs that were offered at the end of this 2-year period were otherworldly. And I was just trying to find myself one of them. So, Brandon, for those of you all who've not gone to B school, the courting looks like this. You go to school for a little while, and then the recruiting office brings in these fabulous recruiters from these top-notch companies from all over the world. Right. And they come in, now it's Zoom, I would imagine, but back then they would come to the campus, they would host something.
That's
You'd
right.
have hors d'oeuvres, or as I call them, horse divers. There would be wine, but you were counseled, don't drink any wine until after this thing. Don't do it. And so there'd be all of these things, and then there'd be a panel discussion.
That's right.
With the people who are the executives, sometimes recruiters. There'd be some film that would run, and then came the question and answer period, where the students were given the opportunity to ask a question of this esteemed panel of folks that can hire people and change their lives. I'm at the first one of these, and I'm sitting in the back. I'm just trying to, and I'm studying it, Bernard and LT. I'm like, oh. They say, okay, open for any questions. There'd be silence, because it's a high stakes kind of a thing.
Right.
A pause that's awkward. And then eventually one of the seniors said, come on, somebody's got to say something. And then somebody would go out, and then once a couple of people went, then the room loosened up. This is how it went down.
Yes.
I'm studying all of this, and I'm like, oh, I got it. The time to get the job is not in the interview.
That's right.
The time to get the job is when your foot steps in that room.
Yep.
That's the time to get the job. I also was aware that 90% of communication is nonverbal, and I'm from Detroit, so I could dress, brother.
Alligator.
Alligator. Listen, mustard color.
I know.
I would come in there sharp, LT, like professional. I wouldn't wear my mustard color gators, but I might have some reptile. But it'd be classy, done in a classy way. And the next one, I walk in, I sit directly in front of the room, trying to be middle panel, right there. I'm a first-year student. Mm-hmm. And I say to myself, from this moment forward, I don't care who else is in the room, when they cut that tape, or the executive says the last word, and they say, "Are you ready for it?" When the first letter question comes out, I'm raising my hand and I'm asking the question. And I did that for every single reception that I went to. What that did for me is I began, I unwittingly, to dictate the terms of what would happen in the interaction between the students and these companies at every one that I was in.
Wow. Wow.
And there was power in that.
Yep.
And there was not one time where when the reception then broke after the Q&A, where one of those executives did not come over to me.
Wow. Wow.
And the preparation of the questions that I would ask,
Yes.
I wasn't asking, I noticed in the Wall Street Journal. No,
Yes.
no, no.
Yes.
I'm in here, if I got to go find microfiche
Right.
to get something about the CEO
Yes.
or what a board member said, I was asking questions where when I would get done, there was a pause.
Right.
So I'm corroborating your point. I did not present myself as any of the other students. And then I'll end with this because I know I'm going long here. Today, and Larry can attest to this, when we are in a room of folks and they ask, introduce yourself, what do you do? Today, Bernard, I will say, I like to do dope shit with dope people. Today. Yeah. Today.
That's it.
Awesome, DC. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's
That is
it.
awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And I guarantee you that gets everybody's attention.
Oh, it
Right
does.
away. Yeah, right
And
away.
what you did, what you just said, it's true.
Yes.
It is true. It's
It is
genuine.
true.
Right.
It is true.
Well, you know, DC, it's interesting we're having this conversation about business school and that, because one of the things I told students a couple of days ago, because now everybody's on campus, I used to get to those things an hour and a half early.
There we go.
Larry, because everybody would show up at the same time. It was a
Yes.
mass rush, and you couldn't get through. So I get there about an hour and a half early. And they had the little slide carousels. So
In
I'm
those
like,
days, Bernard, they used to do the Carolina Inn. Remember?
you remember that? You remember that, right?
Yep.
So I'd be like, "Hey, Bernard Bill, I got my resume and everything. I'm chit chatting with them." So by the time the bum rush of everybody comes in, I could eat the food and I could drink the wine because I had already made my impression.
You done made your impression.
And my mama said the ends of lines were made for other people. And she was like, don't let me drive by and see you standing at the end of a line somewhere. You got to be creative. You go knock on a door and say, you got to use the restroom. And once you in, you find your seat.
That is
That's
great.
a hell of a story, man. It's a hell of a story.
That's
really
a
thank
mic
you.
drop for that.
I do dope shit with dope people.
That's right.
It is, and he says it all the time, and it's perfect. Bernard, I can't tell you how much fun this has been, and all the knowledge you have dropped. We're hit the close segment now, and I got a million. I'm gonna try and keep this brief.
Woo!
What's gonna happen here is I'm gonna hit my learnings. DC's gonna do his, and then if you want to put a bow on yours of what you learned from the conversation, that would be great. But here's mine. I have 14, but I'm gonna put some pace. Number 1, know thyself. Number 2, are you in touch with your EQ and how you are landing with other people? Brand nerds, huge. Number 3, you need to engage, not just network. It's about engaging. Much different than networking. Number 4, in a new situation, think about who you're going to meet and how you're going to engage with them. Bernard does this every time. Bernard, number 5, I want you to repeat F.O.R.M for us. And if you could do it with pace, that would be great.
Yeah, family, occupation, recreation, and message. And Larry, what I will do, I have a list of questions under each one of them. I will email them to you.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
We're going to put that in the show notes.
That'd be
Exactly.
awesome.
Number 6, Jonathan Rogers pulls up another great John Wooden quote. I love John Wooden quotes, Bernard, and this one reminded me what you were saying about Jonathan Rogers, and this is a John Wooden quote. Quote by John Wooden: "It is amazing how much can be accomplished if no one cares who gets the credit."
Oh, man. Brilliant. Perfect.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Number 7, culture. I'm not going to say each strategy, but it comes before a strategy. I'm going to take that a little different. Number 8, Jonathan Rogers: "Always give your opponent an elegant way out of the corner." Oh, that's just genius. Number 9, like Bernard learned $55 million later, market research is really foundational, brand nerds. Number 10, success in one place doesn't guarantee it in another. Number 11, good judgment and good business. And good business is asking good questions to smart people around you. You need those smart people around you. Number 12, be a shepherd that smells like your sheep. Number 13, lift as you climb. Lift as you climb. And number 14, what's your elevator pitch? And what is your life brand story? You need this 30 seconds and you need to have this now. Those are mine.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Man. That's
wow,
awesome.
Larry.
Larry, that's awesome, man.
Wow.
Wow.
Bernard, you've given us and the brand nerds what Larry and I call, and you've heard this term before, jewels. Many jewels. At this section of the podcast, I go out on a limb, Bernard, and attempt to describe the mosaic of the human that is before me. And with each answer and each comment, I begin with a blank canvas, and at some point, it starts to take shape, the colors, the vibrancy, the layers, and a picture emerges for me. And that picture and my articulation of that picture is describing what is it that this human has, in my humble opinion, that none of the other 8 billion people on this planet can give us in the way that this human can give it to us. I'm going to attempt to do that with you now.
Wow.
Starting with Brother Bernard Bell, you are poetic. The way that you communicate your ideas is not like just communicating ideas. You're like taking wisdom and compressing it, codifying it into bars. This is how, and they're bars that make an indelible imprint on the mind of the listener. You don't just deliver information, you deliver formation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In your words, there's a structure to them. There is balance to them, like nature, as I mentioned as a reference point. Here are just a few of your quotes that I can recall. Theme of the business school, or at least your area of it, is people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yes.
Another one of your bars is, in careers, people talk about, Larry mentioned this, moving from peak to peak. They overlook the valleys. You can't get to a peak without a valley. So you've got it, and your desire to examine the valleys and not skip over them, that was a bar. Put your ego in your back pocket. I know you learned that from Jonathan. That was your bar, though. I lift as I lead. Yeah, that's 5 words, people.
Wow.
That's just 5 words, and 2 of them are 1 letter. Okay, 2, but just the balance of it. I lift, as in the middle, I lead. 2 separated by an A.
Wow.
And then, if I'm a shepherd, I smell like my sheep. Up front, Larry mentioned that you were captain of the UNC speech team, and you won the national championship.
Yes.
You also jokingly, this is before we were on the show, Brand Nerds, he said, do I look good? Do I look like Denzel? Now, he probably embarrassed that I say that. He was just joking, tongue in cheek. And I said, the answer to the first question of you look good is yes. The answer to the second question, you look like Denzel, is no. And he said, hell no. However, I don't believe there are coincidences, or as Jimmy Smith, we call him Black Jesus, he calls them coinky dinks. I don't believe in coincidences. So that stuck with me that you said Denzel. And then I thought, wait a minute. Denzel was in a movie called The Great Debaters. His name was Tolson.
Right.
Tolson. Yeah.
Right.
And he wasn't just teaching skills. He was shaping these kids.
Mm.
Yeah. He wasn't just like leading from the front. He was actually walking through the valley, because they weren't good. They were not expected to be good. He was walking through the valley with these students to raise them up. It wasn't just about how they spoke. It was about building their voice. This is your brand piece, their confidence and their conviction. So there's this connection between your UNC speech team experience and your offhanded comment about Denzel Washington and the great debaters. All right, now, my mom, rest in power, a powerful Black woman. She had a saying that the brand nerds have heard many times when I would drone on. She would say, Bernard, baby, are you arriving at a point? And I say, yeah, mama, I'm arriving at a point. So Bernard and brand nerds, I'm arriving at a point. And speaking of mamas, I almost fell out of my seat when you said, my mother, when we talk about the UNC getting there hour and a half early to the recruiting events, she said, my mama said the ends of the lines were made for other people. Yeah.
Right.
So she was saying, what's your mother's name?
It was Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth. Okay, Queen, don't get it twisted. Queen Elizabeth. What she was also saying, because my folks in Detroit used to say this as well, to be Pacific is that ain't for my babies. That ain't for us.
You understand?
That ain't for, this is for other people.
That's right.
And this is when it hit me that how can I honor all that you are, all this, the poetry, the bars, the connection between your UNC speech team experience and Denzel Washington and the great debaters. And I believe it's this, Bernard. You are the shepherd of leaders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, DC. Wow, man.
There you go.
Wow, man. That tells me how smart you are to put all of that together. And the fact that y'all really listen, and I'm not being tongue in cheek when I say that. This is one of the best conversations that I think I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it because I did most of the talking. But I really appreciate the fact, Larry, you teeing me up, and DC, you listening, man. I mean, you can't pull all that together without being fully invested in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think so many people talk at each other because they can't wait for you to finish so they can say what they wanted to say.
Yep.
And that summary, that meant a lot, man. That tells me a whole lot about how smart you are, DC, just to even put all that together, man. And until Larry scheduled this, I had not listened to y'all's podcast. Y'all got some amazing podcasts that you've done.
Thank you.
Seriously. I am grateful that you thought enough of me, because I don't always think enough of me. And so it's great when other people can validate some of the stuff that you've worked hard to do. And I get a little emotional when I say it, but it means a lot, because I think it's so much noise in the world. Yeah. And for people to take the time to do things, not say things, but to do things to show that you're valued. It's special. It's really special. And Larry, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Your brother, Bernard, when we don't see each other often, but when we do see each other, it's like, you don't have this with many people. It's like we saw each other yesterday, man. And
when we met in San Francisco, we
Yeah.
hadn't seen each other in 20 years, man, and just hit it off.
Yeah.
Just like
I mean, it was just amazing. And I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit before towards the end here. DC, before you came on, Bernard was saying, "Man, I just came from an academic event, and I'm sorry that I'm dressed like this. I took my tie off and everything." So, and I said, Bernard, don't sweat it. There's a reason why you're wearing that.
Yes.
And there you go. It was wrapped up in the ending there. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was awesome. But it was a great conversation. Great conversation. And great team y'all have too. So amazing.
Well, I think that puts a bow on it. I think we go straight to the close here. Brand Nerds, thanks so much for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bites. The executive producers of Brands, Beats, and Bites are Jeff Shirley, Daryl DC Calvin, Larry Taman, Jake Tate, and Tom Dioro.
The pod father.
That's right. And if you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share. And for those on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. And we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.